Professor Jane Kelsey, she's been watching this as closely as anyone, and she's no real fan of this. So what are we worried about here? Jane Kelsey's with us. Evening to you.
Good evening.
Are you against this or are you against free trade?
I'm not against free trade at all. We're a trading nation. One of the problems with these agreements, and TPPA is the biggest of them all, is that they're very minimally about real trade, as we understand it, with motor cars and slabs of butter. The vast bulk of this agreement is actually about rules that will put the handcuffs on the choices future governments can make, and that's a democratic matter that shouldn't be negotiated in secret.
Why would a government sign up to that?
Well, I think we need to ask the government that. We need to ask them why they're not prepared to see it and let us see what's in the text.
But you say that, but that's the funny thing, isn't it? I mean, the reality of trade deals is you've got to cut a deal. You and I go back and forth, and suddenly we present the final document. That's how all trade deals work.
Well, that's actually not true, and I took issue with something you wrote in the newspaper to that effect as well. I could give you 5 similar agreements that don't go as far as this one, but cover many of the same issues, where the texts and the documents actually have been made public. So it's not true to say this is how it's always done.
So what do we stand to lose here? So we got the medicine thing today, and you're right, you score some points on that, I guess, at the end of that. What else are we going to lose?
Well, this isn't about point scoring. This is about the government actually telling people what's really happening. And it denied the issues about pharmaceuticals. It denied that there were going to be problems with foreign investment until they admitted that it would make it difficult for us to regulate foreign investors in the residential property market. The Minister of Trade admitted on the weekend that foreign investors could sue the New Zealand government for introducing new laws, for example, around issues like mining, and sue us in offshore tribunals that are nothing like our courts for hundreds of millions or potentially $1 billion. That's big issues. But it's really restraining what we can do in a democracy.
But is that any different to a thing like the WTO? We're not going up to court. We're not going up to tribunals. It's not as we would understand it. It's like the WTO. You go to adjudicators who make decisions on our behalf. None of this is new.
Oh, this is nothing like the World Trade Organization. World Trade Organization is states that bring cases against states, all sorts of diplomatic reasons why they might not do so. There's a standing process, there's an appeal process, there's a kind of system of precedent. None of that operates in these investment tribunals. The judges in these tribunals are investment lawyers one week, act as judges in an ad hoc case the next week, and go back to acting for investors the week after. There's no appeal structure, no conflict of interest rules. It's a real kind of kangaroo court system.
Doesn't bother you that Labor, broadly speaking within a margin, swung behind it now as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch
Doesn't
that.
bother you within a margin that Labor swung behind this to a degree?
Well, I think Labor is now understanding that there is a groundswell of Labor support that is very angry with them. There was really only one of their 5 principles they announced during the week, which is a true red line, and that's the controls on foreign ownership of residential properties. But now they're seeing that the issues around pharmaceuticals are very real. The issues the Trade Minister admitted about the foreign investors' rights are very real. And I think Labor now is realising it can't hedge its bets by saying we're opposed but we'll wait till we see the details, by which time it's too late.
The pharmaceuticals thing's interesting to the extent that, yes, the cost of medicine will go up due to the fact the licences will last longer, but Pharmac will still be in the business of buying drugs on our behalf, and if you believe the Prime Minister today, the government will just kick them a few extra dollars, they will cover the bill, you and I will be at the chemist, will notice no difference whatsoever. So what's wrong with that?
Well, it's not a few extra dollars, and it's not actually about longer terms of patents. The biggest threat is what are called the biologics, the new cancer medicines, the new whiz-bang medicines. And what the pharmaceutical industry wants is longer controls on the information on that. And the estimates, preliminary estimates we have from the health economists say just 1 year added would be $25 million out of our health budget. Now, that's a lot of money.
But the government says, look, the trade's going to make up the difference. We'll fund the $25 million. We'll give it to Pharmac. Don't worry about that because we'll be trading more.
Well, I can see a little flock of flying pigs go by. That's not going to happen.
So is that what? Well, so then we come down to the proof being in the pudding, don't we? So once we sign this thing, you get the right to come back in 1, 2, 3 years and go, look, I told you so and I was right. Or you come back and go, whoops, I was wrong, and like most other free trade deals, it's actually worked out quite well.
Well, let's just take the gains first. US Department of Agriculture calculates that if all of the barriers were removed across all of the countries, New Zealand stands to gain 0.01% of GDP by 2025. Where's the bonanza in that? We need to have the truth out there, and what we're seeing now is drip feeding of that information by the Prime Minister, things he's denied in the past, and this needs to stop now. They need to stop these negotiations before they sign the deal, because getting out of it afterwards is virtually impossible.
Appreciate your time very much, Jane Kelsey. Although